give me courage when I can't seem to find either on my own. You give me hope when I am doubtful, and all the faith that was lost can now be found. Ooh, oh, you are the light that always brightens up my day. When everything is wrong, you make it all okay. You make me feel like I can reach and touch the sky. I'm high with you by my side. You are my sight, you are my wisdom. You help me see the things I know weren't there. You pick me up when I am down low and take me to a place I've never been before. Oh, yeah, you are the light that always brightens up my day. When everything is wrong, you make it all okay. You make me feel like I can reach and touch the sky. I'm high with you by my side.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris.
Hello, hello, there we are. Hi, everybody. Hi, Broward County and all our young leaders. Hi, everyone. Be back. It is so good to be with you. Let me thank Fernandez. Where are you? There you are. Thank you so very much for just, listen, I say these days we must walk by faith, not by sight. But thank you for the introduction. Thank you to Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Where are you? There you are. Hi, Debbie. And Ted Deutsch, where are you? And Jill, there you are. Hi. It's so good to see all the friends. Where's Jill? There you are. Hi. Good. Hello, everyone. So early voting ends tomorrow at 7, and the election that will determine the course of our future as a nation, and dare I say as a world, will be decided on November 3rd, just 3 days from today. Very optimistic about the possibilities. And in large part, you all have been doing and continue to do. The world knows, the nation knows, and Joe and I know the path to the White House leads through Florida. And you all have been laying the groundwork for years, for months, for weeks, for days, and reminding people that we are all in this together, and reminding folks, of course, there was so much, and we've been through so much. We are in the midst of course, 4 crises that have converged at one time. A public health crisis, of course, because of this pandemic, where we have seen 25,000 people in our country who have died in just the last several months. You know, I've been talking about this as a mass casualty event of abortion that we've really not seen since World War II. And the tragedy of it includes the fact that because of the nature of this virus, so many people passed without the ability to have family members with them holding their hands in those last days on Earth. We're looking at over 9 million people now who have contracted the virus with untold long-term health consequences. Doctors are talking about things like lung scarring. There's no question we now have 9 million people who now, in addition to those who had it before, have a pre-existing condition called COVID. And the tragedy of this is it didn't have to be this bad, Broward County. It did not have to be this bad. But we have a president of the United States who, when, thanks to a fellow by the name of Bob Woodward, when he was informed back on January 28th, informed that this is a pandemic, that we're talking about a virus that is highly contagious and deadly, more deadly, 5 times more deadly than the flu, is airborne, will affect people of every age. He covered that information up. He did not share it with the American people. Can you imagine, as a parent, as a small business owner, as a teacher, what you might have done if you had known what the president knew on January 28th? How you might have prepared, how you might have planned. Because remember, even before this pandemic, so many families in our country, working people, had to work 2 and 3 jobs to put food on the table and pay the rent. And by the way, in a Biden administration, our belief is nobody should have to work more than 1 job to put food on the table and pay the rent. But how people might have prepared, knowing that most American families don't have more than $1,000 in savings, how they might have prepared, how small businesses might have prepared. When we're looking at the impact here in Florida and around the country. You know, I joke, but seriously, how we might prepare just to buy an extra couple of rolls of toilet paper those days, right? But they sat on this information, and now we are looking at the pain and the loss that so many people have suffered. And on top of all of this, in the midst of a public health crisis, Donald Trump, together with his boy, Bill Barr, are in the United States Supreme Court suing to get rid of the Affordable Care Act that President Obama and Vice President Biden brought to the American people and allowed for over 20 million people to have coverage, including protecting people with pre-existing conditions. And now they're trying to get rid of it. And let's put this in context. Raise your hand if you know somebody who has diabetes. Raise your hand if you love somebody who has high blood pressure or surviving breast cancer or lupus. And they're trying to get rid of these protections. And this brings up the one of many ways that the American people, that Floridians, have a real choice in front of them. Because on the one hand, you have Joe Biden, who, together with President Obama, created the Affordable Care Act. Joe Biden, who says, we come into office and we're going to expand on what it did. We're going to bring down prescription drug prices. We're going to bring down the cost of premiums. We're going to lower Medicare eligibility to age 60. We're going to deal with health care in a way that we expand coverage, understanding that health care doesn't mean the body starts from the neck down. It also includes health care from the neck up. That's called mental health care, which we sorely need to expand. There's a real clear choice here, 2 very different choices. So that's Joe. And on the other hand, you have someone who has lied, yes, I said that, lied to the American people, has not followed the science, who has suggested this is a hoax, who has suggested that On the ledger he keeps, you're on one side of his ledger. If you wear a mask, you're on the other side of his ledger if you don't. There's a real clear choice. These crises, the economic crisis that has resulted from this pandemic, being compared to the Great Depression in terms of its impact. Over 30 million people in just the last several months filed for unemployment. Here in Florida, 1 in 9 families is describing their household as having been hungry. We're in the midst of a hunger crisis in America. 1 in 5 mothers, I've seen the numbers, describes her children under the age of 12 as being hungry. In America today, we're looking in Florida at 1 in 7 households who is describing a difficulty paying their rent or inability to pay their rent. Here in Florida, 1 in 4 small businesses have gone out of business with very small likelihood of being able to reopen. Economic devastation. And again, you have a Joe Biden who, when asked, how do you think the economy is doing? How are you measuring the economy? Joe Biden responds with, well, tell me how working people are doing. Tell me how working families are doing. Joe Biden says, we need to move forward, not increasing taxes for anyone making less than $400,000 a year. We will increase tax cuts for middle-class families. We will ensure that working families pay no more than 7% of their income in child care. We will ensure that first-time home buyers get a $15,000 tax credit to help with down payment or closing costs, understanding that home ownership is one of the greatest paths toward economic health and well-being, intergenerational health and well-being. That's how Joe thinks about the economy. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who, when asked how is the economy doing, asks the question, how's the stock market doing? Asks, how are rich people doing? Which clearly is what motivated what he considers to be one of his greatest achievements, was a tax bill that they passed benefiting the top 1% and the biggest corporations in America, leading to a $2 trillion deficit that everyone else will have to deal with. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Broward County, we're going to do everything we can over these next 3 days, and God willing, we are going to win this election, and Joe and I are about to get rid of that tax cut. And invest that money in working people and in our families. Invest that money in an infrastructure plan that is going to be about, yes, building back up our roads and our bridges, but also investing in renewable energies. It is going to create millions of jobs. We are going to invest that money, understanding that any young person coming from a family that makes less than $125,000 will go to a 4-year public college for free, including an HBCU. Because that's how we build up, and as Joe likes to say, build back better. Invest in the American people, invest in our young people, invest in our families. And boy, the return on that investment is profound. We are dealing with crises, a long overdue reckoning on the issue of racial injustice in America. And you have Joe, being a student of American history and having the courage to speak truth, who has the ability and willingness to speak the phrase, Black Lives Matter. Joe, who says we must speak truth no matter how difficult it may be for some to hear. We must acknowledge racial disparities. We must acknowledge what the virus has highlighted. For example, in in our healthcare system, when African Americans and Latinos are 3 times as likely to contract the virus and twice as likely to die from it. When Black women are 3 to 4 times likely to die in childbirth as compared to other women. When our Native American brothers and sisters have the highest rates of diabetes of any population in our country. We must speak truth about these things and address them with the motivation being that we have to have a society that is built on a respect for the concept of equality and reaching equality through initiatives that are about achieving equity. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who, on the debate stage in the first debate, we all remember, refused to condemn white supremacists, and then went on to double down and talk about stand back and stand by. And I think it's really important to put this in context and to understand a pattern we have witnessed. A pattern that started before he was running for president, where he questioned the legitimacy of the first Black president of the United States, where on the issue of Charlottesville, where there were peaceful protesters protesting racial injustice in America. A young woman died in that protest. And on the other side, there were neo-Nazis wearing swastikas, carrying tiki torches, spewing racial and anti-Semitic slurs. And the President of the United States says there were fine people on both sides. The President of the United States was called Mexicans, rapists, and criminals, who, as one of his first orders of business, put in place a Muslim ban. And here's the thing. We are better than this. We are so much better than this. And the thing about who we are as Americans and as a people is we know that the real measure of strength is not measured based on who you beat down. It is measured based on who you lift up. And many of us know Joe. And let me tell you something. Joe, in his heart, in his soul, is someone who is deeply committed to unifying our country. He and I know, and we all know, regardless of where you live, your race, your ethnicity, your gender, or the language your grandmother speaks, we all know that the vast majority of us have so much more in common than what separates us. And we want and need a president who leads with that spirit. And on the list of crises, Florida knows this well, we are dealing with a climate crisis. It is undeniable. You know, I come from California. The wildfires are burning up the west coast of our country, from California, Oregon, Washington, Colorado. I've met with and visited with families that have been evacuated from their home, never to be able to return. I have visited with firefighters that are putting out fires while their own homes are burning. My brother-in-law's a firefighter. When you look at the Gulf Coast states, neighbors to here, including this state, the storms, do you know we've had 5 named storms in our country this year? And we named the storm because it's really bad. What we've seen in terms of the Midwest and the floods that have caused farmers to lose a whole season of crops. And so Joe says, hey, this is undeniable. Let us embrace the science on this. Let us treat this with a sense of urgency and put in place timelines like the goal of net zero emissions by 2050. Let us understand that all of us need to breathe clean air and drink clean water. Joe understands this is also a civil rights and a human rights issue. When you look at the fact that in all of the jurisdictions of poor air quality in our country, in 70% of them, it's people of color who live there. Joe understands that when we talk about this crisis, there is a moment of opportunity in this crisis, which is to invest in renewable energies, invest in wind turbines and solar paneling, invest in building up the skills of America's workforce to take on the jobs that are necessary to confront this crisis, an investment in our infrastructure which will create millions of jobs. Joe understands that. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who, when he was asked about the wildfires in California, so the journalist asked something along the lines of, so Mr. President, these wildfires are happening, people are suffering, and the scientists are telling us there's a connection between this and the extreme weather conditions and human behaviors that have contributed. The President of the United States of America, who is also the Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America, responded by saying, science doesn't know. Science doesn't know. This is what the President of our country said. And so here's the thing, Mr. President, science does know. And so does the major scientific magazine, which has endorsed Joe Biden for President of the United States. So we're dealing with a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. It is. But we're all here together. We're all here together. And yes, these moments, and in particular when you compound it with what we have had to do to deal with this virus and social isolation and the distancing, look at all of us, we can't even shake hands and hug, we're wearing masks. It has a tendency to really make people feel alone. And I think that what's important about this afternoon and what you all have been doing throughout really makes the statement that we are not alone. And that then brings up one of the reasons for my visit today, which is the importance of voting. Voting today and tomorrow in terms of early voting. Early voting is critically important. And then, of course, voting on Tuesday. And, many people come up to me, and probably to you, and they say, why should I vote? And I think there are 3 reasons people should vote. One is to honor the ancestors. Honor the ancestors. People like a friend of Ted and Debbie and mine, our colleague, the great, great, great American hero, John Lewis. John Lewis, who told us, you love your country, get in good trouble. John Lewis, who shed his blood on that Edmund Pettus Bridge so that in particular, black people could vote, but that all people could vote. John Lewis, who, by the way, also understood it was a civil rights issue and there is a continuum of the fights that we have had and continue to have for civil rights. John Lewis, who, by the way, was front and center fighting for marriage equality. John Lewis, by the way, who was front and center saying we should fight for the dreamers. Let's honor the ancestors. That's a reason to vote. Reason to vote is we just celebrated this year the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. Right? Among the ancestors, those suffragettes who, wearing their white, marched and shouted and fought for a woman's right to vote. It's important also because we always have to speak truth. Black women couldn't vote until 1965, so we got to deal with that too. But yes, let's honor the ancestors. That's a reason to vote. Reason number 2, everything is at stake. Everything is at stake. Everything we have already discussed, including our standing in a global world, the integrity of our nation, You know, one of the things about where we have been and America's strength around the world, yes, we have one of the finest militaries. But our strength also comes from the fact that we were known, for the most part, as being a nation that kept its word. That we knew the difference between our allies and our adversaries. That we honored our commitments, including our traditions, that include a respect and reverence for the rule of law, for the sanctity of one's election system and the need to protect it from foreign interference, things like that. So there's everything at stake. Everything is at stake. Reason number 3. I've been traveling around the country. I actually was just in Florida, I think a week and a half ago. Been to Georgia, North Carolina. Yesterday I was in Texas. I've been to, yeah, they're doing a great job in Texas. I was in Nevada, Arizona, you get the point. Michigan. All over our country, you know, starting in terms of recent history, starting with 2013 when the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act, where it basically took the teeth out of our ability to protect against states that have a history of discriminating against voters. So back since 2013, probably almost 24 states enacted laws that have been designed to suppress the vote, targeting African American voters, voters of color, students, Native Americans, you name it. And so much so that in North Carolina, a court that reviewed the law that they passed said it was designed with, quote, surgical precision to prevent, in that case, black people from voting. So we've been seeing this happen. We know all of these, what we've seen here in Florida. I mean, you know, the attempt to make voters confused, the attempt to make it difficult. We've seen around the country, you know, so I was in Texas yesterday in Houston, Harris County, you know, I like that. In Texas, they're allowing 1 drop box per county, and in Harris County, there are 11 million people, guys. 1 drop box. In other states, we're seeing, you know, this thing about if you're gonna vote by mail, you fill out your ballot, and then you can put it in 1 envelope, but don't forget to put it in that 2nd envelope, and then you gotta sign that, and then in some states, you know, somebody else has to sign it. All kinds of stuff. We're seeing, you know, the president of the United States essentially took that debate stage and openly encouraged the suppression of the vote. So I bring all this up to say, one has to ask, why are so many important people going out of their way to make it so difficult and confusing for us to vote? And I do believe the answer is because they know our power. They know our power. They know when we vote, things change. They know when we vote, we win. So let's not ever let anyone take our power from us. We know we have the power, that in our democracy, the power is with the people. You know, people ask me all the time, well, what do you think is going to happen the day after the election? I said, look, there is no question that over these last almost 4 years, our democracy has taken a beating. The rule of law, respect for the rule of law, the respect for the independence of the Department of Justice. I mean, I could go down the list, right? No question it has taken a beating. You know, you almost want to think about it like a hurricane hit a house. Yes, some of the shingles have fallen off, but the house is still standing. And I do believe that America's democracy will always be as strong as our willingness to fight for it. And so that's why we're all hanging out together this afternoon, because we are prepared to do just that. We are prepared to do what is necessary to stand up for this country we love, so my last point is this. This moment will pass. It will pass. And years from now, our children, our grandchildren, and others, they will look in our eyes, each one of us, and they will ask us, where were you at that moment in time? And what we will be able to tell them, Broward County, is so much more than just how we felt. We will tell them what we did. We will tell them what we did. We will tell them we organized, we mobilized. We will tell them we emailed and we texted and we called everyone we knew repeatedly until they got sick of us, but we knew they'd get over it. We will tell them that we reminded people that we are all in this together. We will tell them that we reminded everyone we know of their individual power. We reminded them that the power in our country comes from the people. And we will tell them we elected Joe Biden, the next president of the United States. Thank you, Broward County. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
There's so many girls, I hear you've been running from the beautiful queen that you can be becoming. You can look in my palm and see the storm coming. Read the book of my life and see I've overcome it. Just because the length of your hair ain't long, and they often criticize you for your skin tone. Gonna hold your head high, cause you're a pretty woman. Get your runway stride home and keep it going. Girl, live your life. I just wanna be myself. Yeah, don't sweat, girl, be yourself. Follow me, follow me, follow me, girl, be yourself.